Greatest Cards of All Time, podcast number 46, Clayton Kershaw. Specifically, I'd like to take a nice up-close spotlight look at a 2006 Bowman Heritage Prospects Clayton Kershaw card. What a beautiful card, actually. I think it looks pretty good. You hate it, maybe.
No, I don't hate it. I looked at it and I thought 1949 Bowman.
This is a near mint PSA 8, to be exact. And I believe its only imperfection to be a little factory ding. And I call factory ding because it didn't happen after the fact of production. It was happening during production. Still looks clean all the way around. I like this card a lot. I love Clayton Kershaw. I'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable with more Clayton Kershaws in my collection because he's about to go into the Hall of Fame. Right. Easily first ballot Hall of Famer. Everyone remembers Clayton Kershaw and everyone loves Clayton Kershaw.
You know, you've been talking about him for a little while, actually, even before the playoffs. In the regular season, you were talking about him, and you ended up picking this guy up, I don't know, this card specifically a month or two ago. I thought it was a great pickup. I really didn't know all that much about him until we started talking about this podcast or this card. And he's an MVP, 3-time Cy Young, 5-time ERA leader, and a 9-time All-Star.
He's no joke.
I didn't tell you this stat, but what I thought was interesting is he right now is the all-time leader in strikeouts for playoff games. So I thought that was interesting. And something that, I want to bring up about that is, we've talked about pitchers and certain records that they have 100 years ago and how they'll never be broken. One thing that is different right now is the fact that there are way more playoff games. We have, wild card games. Back in the day, it was you won the pennant and you played for the World Series. So, how many strikeouts can you get in a 7-game World Series, or I think it was a 9-game World Series, or whatever, 10, or it was more than 7 games at one point. But regardless of that, the fact that they are playing way more playoff games has a lot to do with the fact that now he is currently the strikeout leader for playoff games, and that just changed. It started with Justin Verlander, or actually started with him, and then Verlander passed him. And then now that he started in Game 2, just recently in the 2022 playoffs against the Padres, he just recently passed him to 213 strikeouts right now.
There was a few years in a row that come to mind where Clayton Kershaw, was exuberating excellence, and he was really throwing his best pitches of his career, but he wasn't getting those accolades such as deep playoff runs or world championship runs until recently. He just got his first one very recently, so very well deserved, kept pushing through, and he was always a playoff performer. He was always getting his team deep, but was never winning.
2020 World Series win.
The World Championships.
Right? He also has a Gold Glove. And the one thing that I thought was actually very interesting was the Triple Crown. Now, I knew about a Triple Crown for a pitcher. We kind of talked about it. We knew it had to be wins, ERA, and strikeouts. I think at one point it might have been wins, ERA, and win percentage. To expand on the Triple Crown, though, it is a little more common for pitchers to get the Triple Crown than a player. The reason why it's a little easier for a pitcher to get it, because if you have strikeouts, you probably have a very good ERA and you probably have a very good win. Like, you can have a good batting average and maybe not be a power hitter. My point is, it is more common. It's more common.
Phil Rizzuto.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll put a link for a Phil Rizzuto episode on there too.
Definitely not a power hitter. But for the Triple Crown, it's more common for pitchers. So it happened 39 times. and it happened with 28 different pitchers. It happened. 3 different pitchers actually won the Triple Crown 3 times. We're talking a long time ago. We're talking Grover, Cleveland Alexander, Walter Johnson, Sandy Koufax, which is more recent. But just recently, we actually had 2 Triple Crown winners. It was in 2011, Justin Verlander and Clayton Kershaw.
I love Clayton Kershaw. I love this card. Interesting story kind of came with it. I was online shopping, looking for this specific card, and was filling my card up and totally forgot.
And it ended up working out anyways, right?
It worked out even better, yeah.
So what was the situation?
Singles.
You purchased a card that was worth $10 or $15 or something like that, and they accidentally sold it. And they said, hey, we want to package up your order. They knew that you had just bought, maybe hundreds of dollars of cards. Recently, before that, you had now put another fairly good size order in, and one of the cards that you wanted to get, Eddie Robinson, was accidentally sold, and they didn't take it off of the online listing. So, it was worth, I don't know, what, $15, $20 or something like that?
$15, yes.
Okay. And so ultimately they reached out to you and said, hey, sorry. And you're like, well, actually, I was just thinking about how disappointed. Well, I mean,
they said if there was any other comps available that you were interested in, and I have been a loyal customer.
You had mentioned to me how upset you were that you forgot to add this specific card. So basically, you pointed out, hey, well, there's the Clayton Kershaw rookie card. It's actually worth a decent amount more, or listed for more. I'll pay the difference. And
it was listed $25 versus the $15.
Okay, right.
So.
And they said no. Basically, no. We're gonna throw it in there. It's on us. Right. Let's talk about the front and back. We talked about it earlier. This is basically, it is based off of a 1949 Bowman. It even says that on the back, celebrating the classic 1949 Bowman, and it has the same color on the back. The front looks very similar. I will say most of the Bowman did not have action photos, and if they did have an action photo, it actually did not show anything below the waist. However, 1949 Bowman was a square, and this is a typical card size, so it makes sense that they would actually show a little bit more than a typical 1949 Bowman, because it is not the actual shape. And we kind of even talked about that on the back. So there's actually a fairly large blank spot on the back. And again, my point to you was, if you look at how a 1949 Bowman was written up on the back, before you actually, it basically cuts off. It would cut off right around the celebrating classic 49 Bowman.
Right.
Because it makes a square.
A standard size.
Right. So the actual back right up is the shape, but then the additional stuff they have on there and the red writing down there, and then the MLB logo and the heritage and the top and the other logos and the additional legal mumbo jumbo on the bottom there. That's just added in to mostly try to fill in space. I mean, they would add it on other cards, but my point is, I don't think it's off-centered on the back. The typical size of this card.
I was saying it might have been, but yes, now I agree with you once I see it front and center.
And that, and again, looking at a 1949 Bowman, it would honestly probably be cut off. If you're looking at the front of the card, it would probably be cut off right around his waist. And that's all you would see. And this is just a little bit added bonus because it's a typical size card. I really like the way it looks.
That's what I was saying. As you flip that over, look at that. It really grabs your attention.
Right. And this is not a way a normal card, typical card, modern
card looks. He's a baby. He looks like
a
baby.
That too. And
one of his earliest cards. This is a Clayton Kershaw rookie card.
The scarcity. That's the other thing that we've talked about a number of times. It's very scarce. This is not your typical tops. Maybe you're not your typical what you think of with the rookie card for a Clayton Kershaw, but this is very rare. I mean, I would love to look up the PSA count and see how many of these are actually
There it is,
graded.
right there.
So
we're going to throw up a graphic because
throw
we
up a
have all
pop-up
that
just to see
information.
Maybe
right
you
there.
can even compare that to his flagship Topps rookie card. How many graded flagship Topps rookie card
I
compared
like this
to
one.
this? I'm sure it's much more scarce than
Beautiful.
that. I love it too.
It's beautiful.